What may come after Senator Val Demings? Well, of course, a 25-year-old black Gen-Z-er Congressman Maxwell Frost. That is a possibility. Young Democratic candidate Maxwell Frost is many things. He's respected in his community as an activist, a gun control advocate, a staunch and vocal LGBTQ ally, and soon to be college graduate. According to many, Frost is eloquent and knowledgeable about many public issues, even though he has never held public office. And while he isn't wealthy or well connected, Frost has been making waves in his campaign to represent the 10th district in Congress, the seat recently vacated by Val Demings. In an interview, the 25-year-old Frost said, quote, "There are so many issues that I will want to work hard to help address. We have to tackle gun violence, which is really what got me into politics after the Pulse and Parkland mass shootings," end quote. On the topic of LGBTQ rights, he has said, quote, "I am more than an ally. I am a partner because it is the right thing to do to support issues like the Equality Act, marriage equality, and trans rights. And the LGBTQ plus community is so vibrant in our district, which includes the Pulse nightclub," end quote. When asked about Florida's Don't Say Gay law, Frost was vehement in his response. Quote, he said, "It's horrible. It's an atrocity, and it's outrageous that other governors want to pass similar laws in other states. These laws must be overturned. They are dangerous," end quote. Frost had some prominent LGBTQ plus help in his campaign, such as U.S. Representative Mondaire Jones of New York. He also has worked with Representatives David Cicilline of Rhode Island and Mark Takano of California, who went to Florida to campaign for Frost. He's up for the seat on November 8th's election. Very interesting story. My goodness, to have a Gen-Z-er person of color as such a vocal ally for us. Of course, he'll make history if he wins this seat. Running for Val Demings' seat, which you probably already know, means his chances are pretty good. I'm really looking forward to seeing the results.
Well, it's this kind of energy that's going to bring out the vote, especially in that district.
Yeah. And another bright young person giving us life and giving us hope for the future. Yeah. That's really what it's about.
Yeah, he is so dynamic. You and I, Al, were at the LGBTQ Democratic Caucus a few weeks ago, and he electrified the crowd after a long day of speechifying and a little drinking and more speechifying. He got up there and pulled this crowd back to consciousness. They were alive. They were on their feet. It was so great. So afterwards, I got over to go and by the way, he beat 9 other Democrats to win the nomination. So I went over and he said something that resonated with me, and I wanted to bring it back. He said, quote, "This campaign is about seeing the world through the eyes of the most vulnerable. Our governor and state legislature are scapegoating the most vulnerable communities. Our queer brothers, sisters, and siblings are part of that," end quote. And just the way he's embraced us as his brothers and sisters meant so much to me. And my God, I can't wait till he's running, till it's time for Governor Scott or Senator Scott to get out of office, and we can run him against him. He's so dynamic. I just love him.
It's time. It's time for new blood, new energy, younger people to get into politics. And so what? He's never held an office before. He has the right. He could have the right people to back him, right staffing to really put him up there to make sure that he's handling things the way he needs to handle. It's time for new blood, new energy, because it's really becoming, and also people of color, because politics in Florida is becoming the same old white and boring. It just really is. I make no apologies about older white and boring.
And male.
And male.
But not the young ones, thankfully.
Yeah, right. You know, in the primaries in Florida last week, I thought about him specifically, meeting him at the Florida LGBTQ Democratic Caucus. And I thought about him specifically because having a 25-year-old Gen-Z-er, I have made every Gen-Z joke there is. He's 25 is Gen-Z, up to 26, you're Gen-Z. Okay, boomer.
No,
That would be me. I forgot. It's a symptom of being a boomer. You forget. But it's really interesting because he being a person of color and Gen Z and running for this seat, I was dramatically affected by the Pulse shooting, and he talks about Pulse frequently. And then he wins in this very competitive Democratic seat. And Mondaire Jones, who had helped him, becomes historic in 2020 as the first black LGBT or person of color LGBT to ever be sent to the U.S. House of Representatives, loses his primary. And I thought of him, and that the justice of November 8th's election will be him going not only for his district and for LGBT in Florida, but also for Mondaire Jones.
Continuing a legacy.
And continuing that legacy.
Totally.
I just love that. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.